You hear it all the time.
Game changer.
Quite a game changer.
Game changer.
Be a game changer.
But it's not often that something comes along that actually is a game changer. This is a game changer, and I'll tell you why.
That's no way to look at life. No way to look.
This is the Polybrute 12. It's Arturia's new flagship synth. It has all the hardware that makes the original Polybrute great, including the awesome mod matrix, the Morphe controller, ribbon controller, excellent effects. A lot of hardware synths have just okay effects. A lot. And that awesome analog sound. I own a Polybrute, and when I considered purchasing one several years ago, it was pitted against a number of other very capable synths, which made for a difficult choice. Which one of these would you choose? I tried all of them, over the better part of a day, and Arturia went home as the winner. The Poly ticked a lot of boxes, but it won out for one big reason. It was one of the most expressive synths I had ever played. In the end, my decision came down to just these two options, and the Poly won out. Because even though the Hydra synth beats the Poly on paper in several categories, the Poly was just more fun to play. I always went back to it again and again after trying all these other options. Unfortunately, just like there is no perfect groove box, there is also no perfect synth. There are a number of things that I don't like about it. The first is that it's not 72 or 88 keys. As a piano player, I really want those added octaves, which is why my Korg Triton is still my main controller. Unfortunately for me, a large segment of synth buyers purchase 61 key instruments, and they are very happy with their purchases. I'm an outlier, so I have to live with a number of great synth options only being available in a 61 key format.
That's no way to look at life.
The next issue is the 6-voice limitation. Coming from the digital world, only having 6 voices is a big deal, because you can only play 3-fingered chords on each hand, and don't sustain anything past that. That, along with 11 fewer keys, are 2 reasons that I almost went with the Hydra synth. Arturia solves these problems with the 12, and frankly, 12 voices for an analog synth is seriously epic. If you have the cash, this is totally worth the upgrade in my opinion. The next issue is one that I have been a bit frustrated with, and it's the quality of the keybed. Arturia makes their own, and for a flagship synth, it has been, well, lacking. You can see some of the build quality issues of my own Polybrute if you look closely. Design-wise, the black keys in particular have too much side-to-side movement, they are a touch too thin and slippery, and the overall action is not uniform, nor is it linear. Of the 3 flagship synths that I own, the Polybrute keybed just doesn't hold up compared to the other 2. In fact, it's not even close. If I'm being honest, I'm afraid I am a bit of a keyboard snob.
It's all too easy to be a cycling snob.
No way to look at life.
So maybe this isn't a big deal to most people, but I really feel connected when playing both the Triton and the Nord. Key pressure is good, key size and travel length are good, and uniform. The Aftertouch on the Korg is very good, and the weighted keys on the Nord are just fantastic. All of this transfers to your playing, and both allow my playing to be dynamic. In fact, very dynamic with the Nord. In contrast, with the Polybrute, 80 to 90% of my key strikes score over 100 out of 127 on the MIDI scale. Part of that is because the action is light, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but also because I probably have a heavier than average playing style. This last gripe is not too big a deal because you can change your playing to compensate, but it definitely limits the expressivity, and well, I want this to be better. The Polybrute 12 has a new keybed that is improved. How much improved? I don't know, but reviews so far have indicated that it is indeed improved. This is at least good and hopefully fantastic, and I am really glad that Arturia is listening to users and continues to make their products better. The new keybed, along with the voice increase and new patches, would be enough to have me at least potentially interested in upgrading. But then Arturia went and checked all the boxes. One of the last big points that the Hydra synth had over the original Polybrute was the fantastic Poly Aftertouch. This is a huge selling point for this board, and it makes it a great instrument. If you want Poly Aftertouch, the next best option is the Iridium or Quantum, and as you can see, the price difference is pretty alarming. There are also things like the Osmos or the Linstrument, but each of these is different enough from a normal keybed to turn off a fair number of users. Even 30 plus years after the first Poly Aftertouch keybed came out, we still don't have a ton of options. Now, however, Arturia not only added Poly Aftertouch, but they provided a number of modes that really move the chess pieces down the field for anyone who wants an MPE keyboard. And frankly, in my opinion, this crushes any other Poly Aftertouch keyboard on the market currently. First is the ability to turn this off or on with a dedicated button. This is a no-brainer, like having a dedicated octave switch. Next are the 3 different modes that you can switch between. LooPop and BoBeats showcase how each of these is different.
Full touch AT or full touch aftertouch, this means that the envelopes behave just as normal envelopes do. The only difference is, aside from them being triggered immediately as you press the key down a little bit, is that the aftertouch applies across the entire span of the key as opposed to just the bottom third. So all of this is aftertouch depending on how you set it up. The sustain envelope is immediate here, so we're hearing the patch at full volume, and as I press lightly, you can see the cutoff start to go up, and I have full control over cutoff across the entire range.
This is not the only Aftertouch mode, so we go to expression control, keyboard. There's also full touch Z, and this lets us use this Z row to also set up additional modulations. So when I press a key, just the normal modulation that I'm engaging, but if I press it down and engage the Aftertouch, something happens. I'm adding in stereo spread, increasing the delay level, and adding in a sub from oscillator 2. Now the third mode is probably the most interesting technically because it is full touch envelope aftertouch. This means that we're using aftertouch to control, or the full touch aftertouch to control the envelope. So if I set velocity to 100% and I play soft, but if I play hard,
These different options are very cool, and my mind is swimming with possibilities. Remember how I was complaining about dynamics before? Well, if you want dynamic playing, this opens up a whole new world. Poly Aftertouch has been gaining ground over the last several years, and this is fantastic for synth users, because it moves the instrument forward. Not every player wants it, but that's okay. Not every player wants a whammy bar either, yet it's a large portion of the guitar market. I actually don't really like having one on my guitars, because they are a huge pain to tune, and there are a number of players that have the same sentiment. Poly Aftertouch is kind of similar. It's not the easiest thing to play, and if it's on all the time, it can behave unexpectedly unless you really have the muscle memory down to use it right. If you can turn it on and off with a switch, just like switching from mono to poly, why wouldn't you want it? If I could have a whammy bar on my guitar that didn't require tuning, I'd have one on pretty much all my guitars. What Arturia did is essentially provide a whammy bar with like 3 different modes, and you don't need to do anything else but hit a button to be able to use it. This is understanding your market, seeing where market trends are going, and then providing a solution that not only will gain you more market share, but could also now become the de facto standard going forward. And that is why this is an actual game changer. Korg, Yamaha, Roland, other synth manufacturers, I'm going to be really bold here. This is what synth players want. More expressivity with an on-off switch. This is simple, elegant, and easy to use. It's what other Poly Aftertouch keybeds are lacking. It's moves like this that the synth industry needs to make, incorporating bold changes and creating new ideas to propel this ancient instrument forward. So thank you, Arturia, for this. I, for one, am glad that you do what you do. Also, though, please make a 72 key version of this, because I need to retire my Triton, and I'm only going to do it with another 72 key synth. That's it for today. Hit that like and subscribe, because I've got a few interesting things up my sleeve. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the other side of the mountain.
That's not the way to look at life.
You were so kind last night. I thought you would stay.